I find the single most effective aspect in communicating the value of this product to people is my belief in it. It's helpful to paint the picture when you're talking to people about the science behind the Cerule product range. With all of that 20-something years of science behind me and all of that, I find the single most effective aspect in communicating the value of this product to people is my belief in it. If you don't believe it, then people will see that. You have got to believe this. This crazy green powder can do what it says it does. My professional background is in academia. I spent 20 years, or wasted 20 years or so, I should say, of my life as a senior lecturer. And so I finished an academic career. I now basically concentrate solely on the Cerule business. I have a YouTube channel that I run in the background to that, which is a channel all about human nutrition, the fallacies, the foibles, the things that we're told that are not strictly correct. And it's all about analysing the science, basically. So that's me in a nutshell. Let me just share a couple with you. And the reason that I'm going to share these ones in particular is because these are people who are very close to me. Number one is me. 10 years ago, I went to the optometrist for a standard check for my prescription lenses, just to make sure everything was on the up and up. This guy said to me, I'm going to refer you to an eye specialist because I'm not really happy with what I'm seeing here. You have what is called advanced age-related macular degeneration, he said. Basically, what I was told by the top specialist in New Zealand at the time was, within about 5 years, so 5 years ago, you will be legally blind. There's nothing we can do. There are some experimental stem cell treatments, he said, involving injecting stem cells into your eyes. I said, no, thank you. And then I started looking for other things. And that's when I became involved in the idea of adult stem cell support. That was 10 years ago. I should have been blind 5 years ago. I'm not. In fact, my prescription is less than it was 10 years ago, and my vision is better than it was 10 years ago. Now, life-changing. I cannot think of anything more terrifying than losing my sight. And that I was told that's what I can expect, not maybe. So I was kind of preparing myself emotionally for that. And as I say, serendipitously at that time, I started looking around for things, and I found some blurb about Andy. I found some blurb about what he was doing at that time, and I'll be eternally grateful, frankly, because for me, my vision is one of the most important things to me. Let me tell you just a little bit about my dear mum. For the last 10, 15 years, she's been deteriorating quite noticeably, I would have to say. So what did mum had? She had very, very severe ankylosing spondylitis, which is an immune condition where the spinal column and the neck vertebrae basically start to dissolve. And I kind of went, either I prepare myself for this or I lean on mum a bit harder and say, you know what? I'll pay for it, mum. She's a superannuitant. She can't, take a mega dose, get the stuff into you, don't argue, shut up, take them. That was about 3 months ago. Went and visited over the break in early January. And as soon as I got there, something isn't quite as it should, something isn't right here. I couldn't put my finger on it. And then it came to me. Well, number one, she was stood bolt upright with her shoulders back and her chin up, which I hadn't seen in 5-6 years. Was trotting up and down the beach with us and the dogs and the kids, and with a spring in her step and laughing and joking, no pain on her face, no sign of any problems. Incredible. So I said, are you going to keep taking the stuff? She goes, yeah, I think I will. So that's what I was talking about before, Sarah, when I said, number one, you've got to believe. And the only way you're going to believe is if you talk to people that have been on the stuff, because invariably they will tell you incredible stories. Obviously STEM Enhance Ultra is the flagship, so that's number one priority. And so that people know, I'm not saying you should do this. Again, check with your upline. I take 16 of those a day. So 16 4 times 4 of STEM Enhance, 2 Plasma Flow, 2 Cyactive. I also take Cyactive Joint because I have some issues with joints and that kind of stuff as well. And of course, I use every single one of the skincare products on a daily basis. The YouTube channel that I run is all about nutrition and stuff. And what I really had originally figured was that I wanted to keep that channel absolutely clean of any kind of promotion for any product or I just wanted to talk about science and leave it at that. I hadn't shared this business with people. I hadn't spoken publicly about the product, except that I had acknowledged I am taking this supplement. And so at that stage I thought, well, I've got this relatively large following. Why don't I leverage it? The first thing I did was I went back to Linda and said, look, this is what I'm thinking about doing. This is how I want to do it. This is my plan. I checked with her that everything was on the up and up in terms of that. She said, go for it, obviously. And I did. I went for it. It's been an incredible whirlwind thing. I don't even know how many people I've put in the last 6 months. It's just been crazy. So, I mean, in terms of where are these prospects coming from, I guess people want to know that. At the end of the day, I am leveraging my social media influencer profile as a YouTube creator. I am speaking publicly on my YouTube channel often about this product, what it does, how it works. And I'm saying to people, look, this is what the stuff is. This is what it does. If you are interested, here is how you contact me. And invariably people are contacting me and I'm providing them with the background information. Here's what you need to know. Here's the next step, going through the follow-ups, just like anybody else would do. I've built a very genuine relationship with that following. Now it's at a point where the actual recruitment is, the difficulty is not finding people to recruit. The difficulty is finding time to follow up appropriately with people, to guide them in the right way, to get them into the right place, whether they need to be a customer, whether they need to be an IBO. I'm really, really grateful to my people that they have seen the value in that. Okay. And the Cerule income surpasses the rest put together. Almost everything I've done in this business comes from that social media platform, that relationship I built with that audience over the 2 years prior to deciding to build this business. But you absolutely do need to build, I think, you do need to build a social media presence of some kind, whether that's a YouTube channel, and it doesn't need to be about nutrition. The main thing is building a relationship, building a community of people that exist in the socially distanced electronic world. I think, for me, it's been an incredibly powerful tool. So it's all about whacking in a lot of frontline work very, very quickly in terms of IBOs. And then my devious plan is to encourage people to build what I'm going to call the 1,050 point unit. What you basically do is you put yourself on a wellness pack. Okay. Then you find 3 people personally that you can put on a wellness pack. The first thing that comes out of that is that your wellness pack is now free. The next thing that comes out of that is your IBO. You encourage them to do exactly what you've done. In other words, you just duplicate yourself. They find 3 people, whack them on a wellness pack. Theirs is free. So you've got 3 people that you've introduced personally and 3 people in depth. That's 6 people on 175 points, that's 1,050, not counting your points. I mean, how do you build a castle? Well, one block at a time. At first, if you're a brand new distributor, you'll fumble over things, you'll say the wrong thing here and there, you'll make mistakes, but you learn. Okay, but let's say you start out at a 10% conversion rate. That's powerful, because that means if you want to sponsor 10 people this month, which should be your goal, I think, if you're starting from zero right now, then you need to talk to 100 people this month. The other thing I warmly recommend, and again, check upline, but the other thing I warmly recommend is not over talking this to people. Here is what the product is, brief explanation. Here is what it can do for you in terms of encouraging the release of your adult stem cells. Here is what adult stem cells can do. And then it's the hardest thing in the world I've found, but I found it to be the most effective thing to do at that point. Boom. He who speaks next loses. At that point is, what are they going to do? They're going to ask you for more information. Bam, here's the link. And then it's just a rotation. Put them in the diary 5 days hence. Give them 5 days to look at the information. Don't crawl all over them. Once they've had their 5 days, get back in touch. And what I've found effective is at that point is to say, and the wording I've found here to be very important, what questions do you have for me? Not do you have any questions, because that invites them to say no. What questions do you have for me? And then you've got a dialogue. And from there, if I get someone to that point, I know they're in. This product should be in every household in the world. Every person in the world should be taking this stuff. This stuff is magic. And it comes right back to the beginning once again. Do you believe?